happens if we go on boiling water? Yes, the water changes into water vapor. Now, the water changes into water vapor only when the water gets boiled, or below the boiling point of water whether water can be changed into water vapor? Yes, of course. Wet cloths, it gets dry after some time. Why? Yes, the water in the wet cloths move to the atmosphere. So, water changes to water vapor not only at its boiling point, sometimes below the boiling point what happens? Water changes into water vapor, and this is known as evaporation. Let us see how does evaporation take place. I told you boiling is a bulk phenomenon because boiling takes place from the whole liquid when it starts boiling, but evaporation takes place only from the surface. For example, if you have some water in a shallow plate and if you keep it in the sun, what happened to the quantity of water after some time? Yes, the quantity of water decreases. That means some water has evaporated. You know that water has not attained its boiling point. That below boiling point, evaporation has taken place. So, what is happening actually during this evaporation process? In this process, the water particles at the surface of water gets some more kinetic energy, and thus it gets separated from the force of attraction of the other particles, that is water particles. So, what happens? The water particles at the top of this water, as they get some more energy, as they have some more kinetic energy, they escape from the surface of water. This is known as evaporation. So, can you tell me some differences between boiling and evaporation? The first point is boiling is a bulk phenomenon, but evaporation is a surface phenomenon. Why? Because evaporation takes place only at the surface of water. I think it is clear to you. It is a bulk phenomenon, it is a surface phenomenon. Second point, boiling takes place only at its boiling point. Suppose if you have taken water, water boils only at its boiling point, that is at 100 degrees Celsius. But whatever evaporation can take place at any temperature. That is the main differences between boiling and evaporation. Now, let us see what are the factors that affect the rate of evaporation. The first factor is surface area. If the surface area increases, what happens? Rate of evaporation increases. That is why wet cloths, after washing, we spread it. Why do we spread the wet cloths on the lane? Yes, as the area increases, what happens? Rate of evaporation increases, and thus the cloths dry quickly. It is clear. Now, one more example. If you are given some hot tea in a cup, you are also provided a saucer. So, from the cup you may not be able to sip the tea because the tea is very hot. So, what you can do? You can pour this tea in the saucer, and if you drink, that won't be much hot. Why? Because as the area increases, rate of evaporation increases. So, its temperature decreases. I think it is clear. So, as surface area increases, rate of evaporation increases. That is the first point. Second factor is the temperature. If the temperature increases, what happens to the rate of evaporation? Yes, as the temperature increases, rate of evaporation increases. Usually during a hot summer day, wet cloths dry quickly. Why? Because temperature is very high. So, the rate of evaporation will be higher. So, rate of evaporation depends on, first we have seen the surface area, then we have seen the temperature. Now, the next point is humidity. What do you mean by humidity? The amount of water vapor in the atmosphere, that is called humidity. Let me tell you what happens if the humidity is higher. Humidity is higher means the water vapor in the atmosphere is more. So, water cannot move into the air or into the atmosphere, because in the atmosphere already water vapors are present. So, what happens to evaporation if humidity is more? If humidity is more, rate of evaporation will be less. If humidity is less, rate of evaporation will be more. So, we have seen 3 points. Now, the fourth factor is wind speed. You know, if there is wind, what happens? Yes, rate of evaporation will be more. Usually, if you hang a wet cloth outside, if it is a windy season, if there is continuous wind, what happens to this wet cloth? Yes, it dries up quickly. Why? Because as the wind increases, the speed of wind increases, rate of evaporation increases, because along with the wind, these water particles move from this cloth into the air. So, wind also determines the rate of evaporation. So, the rate of evaporation depends on 4 factors we have seen. First, surface area, temperature, humidity and wind speed. Now, another effect of evaporation. Evaporation always causes a cooling effect. Suppose if you take some spray and if you apply on your hand, you feel cool at this place, at the point where the spray is applied. Why? Because spray is highly volatile liquid. So, when you apply it on the body, it starts evaporating by absorbing heat from your body. Clear? So, what happens? The temperature at that point decreases, because the temperature of the body is taken by this volatile liquid spray and it has changed into water vapor. So, we feel cool. If you apply spray here, you won't feel cool here. I think it is clear to you, because for the evaporation to take place, it requires some energy, and that energy is taken from the body. That is why we feel cool. So, evaporation always has a cooling effect. When we sweat more, if we sit under fan, we feel cool. Why? Because with the sweat body, if we sit under fan, as the speed increases, the wind speed increases, rate of evaporation will be more. So, what happens? Yes, the sweat takes the temperature from the body and it escapes into the surrounding, to the atmosphere. So, we feel cooling effect. I think it is clear. Now, can you tell me why do we prefer cotton cloths during summer? During summer season, we perspire more. So, what happens? The cotton cloths that will absorb the sweat from the body and that will be evaporated to outside. Thus, we will have a cooling effect if we wear cotton cloths. But if we wear some polyester cloths during summer, what happens? Yes, the polyester cloths do not have much pores in the cloth. So, it cannot absorb sweat. So, we do not get a cooling effect. That is why we prefer cotton cloths during summer. Now, can you tell me why do the water collected in a mud pot feels cooler? Usually in summer, we pour water in mud pots. The water in the mud pots will be cooler. Can you tell me why? These mud pots will have small, very tiny pores in the jar. So, small amount of water will be seeping out through the small holes. Once this water reaches the outside the mug, jug, what happens? Or outside the vessel, what happens? Yes, due to the heat, it gets evaporated. But for this water to get evaporated, that energy has to absorb from the water kept inside the jar. Thus, evaporation causes cooling effect. Thus, the water kept inside the pot becomes cool.